Welcome to this WARPTalk podcast.
I'm Matt Smith.
And I am Bruce Thompson.
We hope you enjoy the episode. So, welcome to the last WARPTalk podcast of 2025. Wishing you a crypto Christmas.
Crypto Christmas.
It's been a bit of a journey this year. This is the first series of the WARPTalk podcast. We issued our pilot, published the pilot back in April. It's been a bit tricky to record, isn't it? I mean, we try and cram these things in when we can.
Yep.
But business as usual is pretty hectic. So I think for next year, when we kick off series 2 in the new year, I think we'll try and make an effort to do a bit more. But I think we'll try some new formats. We'll try and go on the road.
Yep.
Don't you think?
I got to take this off, Matt. I can't even get a
drink
drink my coffee.
ho,
ho, boys and girls. Right. So
we have the ability to move about, don't we?
We do. I mean, people like and dislike the chairs immensely, but we have the portable travel kit. We can take the cushions with us and set up anywhere. So, warp chairs beware. We might be coming to chat with you.
Yeah,
and others.
And I think that's that kind of highlights the fact that one of the things that we want to do is try and get more people on the podcast. So we want to interview people, we want to talk to people. So that's something that we're going to try and introduce in 2026. So watch this space. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and the key thing is if you can give us a like and a subscribe. That helps the podcast. I mean, I don't think we're going to get the audience share that the likes of Gary Lineker gets or something, but not even a rounding error. But it just kind of helps for a range of reasons. And if you can do that, fabulous.
Yeah, and one of the things that's worth mentioning is the WARPTalk website, warp.org.uk. That's kind of your portal into everything that Bruce and I do, or some of the things that Bruce and I do. It'll take you to the podcast on YouTube. It'll take you to the Slack space. So it's kind of a direct access route into some of the stuff that we get involved with. So do check that out if you haven't looked at it already.
Yeah, and even if you are looking at it frequently, it's stuff does happen in there, and the Slack channel again has grown hugely in 2026.
Yeah,
and I think this is a good way of getting sort of fairly fast time information out there, asking for things. Not everybody can respond to every ask, but there's usually some of the regular WARPTalk Slack gang are usually kind of pretty quick onto things, and that's again, I think it was roughly this time of the year several years ago when Matt and I first thought of maybe doing a sort of, at that point, making what was the ISFL Slack, I think, into a broader sort of Slack group, and it's come along famously, really.
Yeah, it's a great space for collaborating. I mean, we've got nearly 900 people on there, which is fantastic. So do check that out if you haven't looked. So 2025 has been a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it? There's been some high profile cyber incidents, I have to say. What sticks out in your mind, Bruce?
I think if I was going to begin to think about the size of some of the attacks, and not necessarily the kind of scale of what was stolen, but more the size of the organisation. So, I think everyone talks about Jaguar Land Rover and the impacts there around, its supply chain and people in the supply chain, sort of, some of those companies that form the supply chain having a very difficult time financially, and again, with it is Christmas, New Year, and wondering what kind of Christmas, New Year some of those families will have, as well as some of the employees there at Jaguar Land Rover, and the real world impacts of ransomware attacks. And I think there's particularly this time of the year, to think about some of those people. I think is relevant, and I think Jaguar Land Rover sort of unfortunately comes out on top on that. But there was Marks and Spencers as well. The co-ops seemed to recover quite quickly. I think the backstory is that they had been rehearsing that kind of thing, and so were able to respond quicker. Let's not forget Harrods, that I think were part of that UK public sector retail supply chain thing.
Because Harrods happened at the same time as MS, didn't it?
Yeah, it's about the same sort of time, the same modus operandi, I think. But I mean, moving away from that retail sector, I called it the public sector a minute ago, but I suppose it serves the public. But that retail sector, I mean, there were other attacks that we seem to forget about, like the legal aid attack. That seemed to go fairly quiet. There was the attack on Heathrow, or what was referred to in the press as the attack on Heathrow. But that was, I think, their supply chain with Collins Avionics being hit. So that had the issue of, I suppose, the instruments in the airplanes not functioning or being at risk. So that had some knock-on impacts. And I think these are the high-value sort of trophy targets that some of the ransomware gangs go after. I mean, in addition, let's not forget NHS Scotland, Southern Water, and kiddo nurseries. I mean, it's a whole raft of, you could almost say one a month, even though they weren't quite spaced out like that. But high-profile trophy attacks that keeps ransomware, in the news. Notwithstanding, and we might come on to Klopp and their use of the exploit in Oracle, the Oracle e-business exploit, and what that has enabled Klopp to do. So definitely a year of the ransomware attack, but also let's not forget the attacks on smaller organisations. So we understand that your sort of support desk, your help desk, is the best defence against some of those attacks where they are, phishing or social engineering. But I think just poor configuration in smaller organisation remains a problem, and that could be part of the supply chain. And I cheekily visited a pub recently that had been caught in a ransomware attack and had a bit of a convo once I was able to convince the landlord that I was who I said I was, and just get the insight on that. And it was as simple as the local IT company use, apparently, similar passwords, usernames for all of their clients. Now, I don't think the ransomware gang picked up on this, which was fortunate, but it wasn't a particularly complex combination. So we're back to the basics here, really, of, if you can prevent being scanned, that is good. People won't find their way in. Those initial access brokers, those IABs, won't be able to do it. 2FA on everything, And I kind of get the school's argument, I've got to do extra this and extra that, and I'm super busy and I'm doing everything else. But it genuinely does stop stuff. And I think smaller organisations, really need to focus in on this, even if they're not doing cyber essentials. And I hope they are, but, it's those smaller organisations that, can cause the impact, as in terms of Heathrow, not just with this power disruption, but the Collins Avionics disruption. And I think I was talking to Graham from the Northeast Warp, and he was saying, there's a large supplier of toilet tissue, and if they got taken out, then the impacts there would be massive across the region. Yeah. So it's these things I think we need to think about.
I think that's a good point, because one of the things that I've always tried to push is that the supplier list that we monitor from a email DNS point of view. We've got nearly 800 or so suppliers on there, which is great. Warp Leads have been fantastic at sending me through domains to add to that list over 2-3 years. But you've got to think outside the box. Anybody that you deal with, any supplier that you deal with, could potentially suffer from an attack, which could have some sort of impact on you. So send me those domains. We can monitor them. It's just that's the trouble with the whole supply chain thing, isn't it? It's just so multi-leveled. It can go on infinitely, and it's so difficult to manage.
It is, and the landlord from the pub said, "I'd read about all this, but I never thought it would happen to us." And he said it's not until you realise that if you ransomware a very small business, and if you only get 4,000 to 5,000 out of them, and that isn't the figure he may or may not have paid, don't read anything into that. You know, if you do 2 or 3 of those a week, you know, that isn't a bad income. You know, that's pretty good. I guess if you're a bad dude. What else we had this year? I'm just thinking about Mondays. It's Monday today, Matt, as we record this.
You coined a cool phrase, didn't you, recently? Cyber Wipeout Mondays.
That was cheeky, wasn't it? But yeah,
but it does seem to be Mondays, though, doesn't it?
It is, and I wonder why that is. I don't have an answer for that. It just is. So as we're recording this, we understand that good old Cloudflare is having another bad day. I think they were busy patching a vulnerability tail end of last week, which caused them some problems, but well done for patching. But of course we had Vodafone and then AWS, and the AWS one was quite interesting. It was their original, I think, sort of AWS cluster, and there's a lot of stuff still seems to be rooted in that, and caused some very strange problems. Interestingly, AWS web hosting didn't go down. That's where Tarragon is.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't go down. That worked fine. But I'm aware of other organisations that had, you know, systems hosted in AWS, but they couldn't access it because the mechanism by which they entered their website, so username, password, second form factor, that wouldn't work, or it just timed out very, very quickly. So that was you know, maybe 2026, maybe we don't get any more cyber wipeout Mondays. That'll be good. But I got this strange notion we might see more of this, and I think we might be at the start of, you know, something. I don't sadly envisage 2026 being too much difference.
No, I think it's only going to get worse, really.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the names will change. The modus operandi won't. They will move. I think there will be this trophy target, smaller target thing will continue. Because the smaller targets are easy to pick off, and we can just focus in on, you know, again on supply chain, and maybe it gets more difficult here. The supply chain. You know, I think that's part of it as well, and also those smaller community organisations. You know, what can we do for them? I haven't got the answers necessarily, but it's worthwhile thinking about, I think.
And I suppose that's why you know, cyber resilience as opposed to cybersecurity is key, because, you know, we have to accept that we are going to get attacked at some point. It's about being able to recover from that. If you're not in a good position to recover, you're going to be worse off when it happens.
I think one of the points that I was making on some of the NapWeed presentations that I did, you know, over the years, particularly in 2024, when we saw Lockbit 3 being taken out twice by, you know, various police forces, was their ability to recover. So they got taken out on the Friday, they're back in business on the Sunday. And I wonder how many people in our supply chains could do that.
That's pretty impressive.
It is, you know, and you can only, I think a phrase that I saw another sort of open source researcher use the other day, which I quite like, is you don't want to be trying to reach the same standard as your peers. You want to be at the standard of your attackers. And I think that's a key thing. It's are we doing what everybody else is doing? Well, yeah, that's good. But are we, you know, can we match what our attackers do?
Yeah.
And in this instance, you know, a complete recovery of an organisation taken out on the Friday, back in business by the Sunday is impressive. And they repeated the stunt when they were taken out again about a month, maybe 6 weeks later. They were able to do this. And I think we can learn lessons from those threat actors. If they can do it, why can't we? And I accept that a council is way more sophisticated with way more systems. But nonetheless, if we think about that's what they can do, what can we do to match, then I think we're on the right path.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate it's more difficult, and I do understand that you know, you can't start rebuilding the systems until the forensic process is complete. And if there are any other sort of constraints as to why you start, you know, why you can't start turning things back on, you know, governance issues and everything else. I fully understand that, but it's I think it's something we can begin to think about and, you know, talk about in terms of what we should be aiming for.
Yeah. So I mean, we've had a good year in terms of events and things this year, haven't we? We've had a couple of cracking conferences.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the one that you organised, Matt.
ISFL.
Yeah. How long has that conference been running? It's years now, isn't it?
It is years. I would have to go back through the calendar to. I can't even remember.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. So this year, back in March, we had the 2025 annual conference again at the QE2, which is it's a fantastic venue. It's a great location, quite a high profile venue actually. A good selection of exhibitors, private sector partners to support us, working with Soccer Team again to help deliver that, and we've got a good relationship with Soccer Team. It was a really good one, and I think the delegation numbers, it just continues to rise, which shows how popular it is, and yeah, I'm always grateful for the support I get in running that.
Well, with a sort of cheeky thought in mind, do you want to do a quick shameless plug for this
Yeah,
year?
yeah.
I think there's a venue change.
There is so for next year, we are changing venue. Nothing against QE2, only in that it's just starting to get a bit expensive. We need to watch the budget. So we are actually moving back to Good Enough College, which is somewhere that we've been before. Some of you may well remember that. It's another great venue, nice location.
That's just like 200 or 300 yards south of sort of Euston.
Yeah. So it's easy to get to. It's a really good venue, and this for this next one we're going to be looking at collaboration really, and how we can all work together to sort of build a stronger cyber resilience across the sector.
Yep.
So looking forward to that one. Hope to get some really good speakers for that. And I'm also taking some lessons away with me from the Northern Warp conference that happened back in September. I'm trying to spruce up the format a bit, but that was another good conference.
That was. I think one of the things I like about both the conferences, just going along, even as a delegate, and I would say if you can get to both, and I know it's difficult depending on where you are in the country, they're both worth your time, definitely. And I appreciate if you're down south, it's sort of the travel north and vice versa. But both conferences are good, and again, I thoroughly enjoyed the Northern Walk conference. It was, as slickly organised as the ISFL one.
Yeah, it's really good to be part of. Yeah, really enjoyed that.
And there's again probably a bit early, but I think what I was about to say was like one's in March, the other one's in September, so they're sort of spaced out 6 months apart.
They're nicely spaced out. Yeah, so it's. I suppose it is all about the travel, isn't it? I appreciate that people from the north can't necessarily get down to London for our one, and the same the other way around. But I mean, if you can get to one, it's well worth it, because the networking opportunities alone are worthwhile.
I recall at the Northern Warp event, I was talking to somebody fairly randomly at the start of the event, and how you talk about the weather or what was your journey like getting here, and I was totally impressed with this particular guy who said, "Oh, I cycled." I thought that's the way to do it, but it's a bit far from London. But yeah, so there you go. So there are multiple methods to get to these events, and some of them are quite environmentally friendly. Others perhaps less so. But
I suppose one of the other things that's worth mentioning, that's been quite a big move, is the whole move for Tarragon, really, because that's kind of almost become independent with some support.
It has, yeah. So I mean, what can we call it? The origin story was that it was incubated from being a bit of an idea and hosting a handful of command and control bot data that could be distributed, and from that I managed to get the aggressive feed sets that block all the internet access brokers. And that was quite nicely incubated by Hightech, but it got to the summer this year and the numbers of downloads was going up. And in addition to that, we had to do a bit of compliance work just to ensure that there was a bit more of a single identity. So part of the problem here was that I was using an email account that didn't match Tarragon's name, and the download site was on Red Team Cloud, which is still operational and remain operational for as long as it's required. But none of these things kind of looked consistent. So moving away from Hightech and sorting that consistency thing out, and you and I had a conversation, Matt, and Southeast Employers, to which I'm very grateful, who are the sort of host organisation for the Southeast Government Warp, or SegWarp as it's sometimes known. They're doing a sort of cost recovery sponsorship of the server hosting for the next year or so. We're about a month and a bit into that. One of the things I've had to focus on is keeping the number of bad guys off the server because they push up the CPU usage and the bandwidth. So Tarragon's actually publishing some of its own data. It's become its own honeypot as well. It is getting very busy, but nonetheless, none of that would be possible without Southeast Employers and SegWarp. So thanks very much, guys. And you are genuinely helping the entire UK public sector, really. Those people who are using Tarragon.
Massive shout out to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge help for them to support us. So that's fantastic news. And CTAG workshops.
Yeah.
They continue to be held for the use of councils and the wider public sector to benefit from. Yeah,
I think we focused in a little bit on email, and I think if we've got a 2026 focus, it would be on, please, those councils or other ward members, you know who you are, who aren't doing so well on their DMARCs and their MTA STS stuff. Now, we have had a lot of people come along who are in the epic category. That's nice, it's great to see you, and we can always find a story to tell about things you could look at, improve, or just say well done. That's nice as well, isn't it? Well done. But actually we're looking for people or organisations that are at the other end or are struggling a bit. So if your SPF is too big, if you're stuck on DMARC equals, what can we say, maybe none, hopefully not, but the low levels of quarantine, or if you're not sure what you're doing, or if the person who used to do it has left the organisation, then please, look out for those email workshops. And I think we've got a couple of MTA STS workshops, certainly one between now and Easter 2026. And like every year, we're not sure whether there is funding or not. So, kind of grab those email workshop spaces whilst you can. Don't put it off because they may not be there after Easter. And I'm not just saying that to try and spark more funding. I can only tell you that they are funded up until Easter. And it's like a lot of organisations that have, annual funding. And for that reason, I think we'd love to see you. But if we can focus on those who really need the help, that would be great.
Yeah, and if you don't know where to go to register for those workshops, just visit the CTAG website, so ctag.gov.uk/events. You will find all the details there.
Yeah.
But as Bruce says, there aren't many left, so do make use of those.
I think also I've mentioned this in the WARPTalk Slack as well. There is the Z tooling that looks at inbound risk from email to organisations and underpins the work that you do on the RAG reports. With the NCSC mail check tool going also around Easter 2026, I'm happy to run, not as part of the CTAG work, but independently a Z workshop if you want to start using Z to look at your inbound email risk. If you send me an email, put something in the Slack chat, either as a DM or in one of the threads, and if we get even a small but reasonable number of people saying, hey, can you do a Z workshop because I want to look at it, I'll certainly run that. But I think that's the least we can do there. There are about 150, 160 organisations using Z. It's been going since 2029. The code base is stable. Could do with a couple of updates, but it's stable and good enough. And it scans just under 50,000 domains every week, which is where Matt gets his RAG reports from and where Z users get their data from. And there's some quite big data lists. Some of them are huge, and of course this underpins the Z to the Max tool that's used by Northwest England NHS, and I think a couple of councils are using it as well. So there's an awful lot going on with Z. So if you want a Z workshop, let me know. I will run one. That's not a problem.
And I just thought of a quick tip that people can take away relating to your DMARC. If you are in a position where you have been running your DMARC at P equals quarantine 100% for over a year, what do we recommend they do, Bruce?
Well, Matt, it's you that keeps the statistics on this.
I do very much.
Very simply, just flip your quarantine to reject. That sounds like a big scary step, but when you think about it, it isn't. Everything that we do in the public sector, we do on a periodicity, apart from the day-to-day stuff. So weekly reports, monthly reports, bi-monthly reports, quarterly reports, 6-monthly reports, and annual returns. So if you've had P equals quarantine for over a year and everything's fine and no one's pinging your support desk with email going to junk folders when they get it coming from your organisation, then you're good to go to reject if you're on 100% quarantine. It's a no-brainer. Just go do it. Yeah.
And if you're not sure if you've been at P equals quarantine for over a year, I have historical data, so drop me a line. I can let you know if you're on that list. Alternatively, if you've got access to the RAG report, there is a separate sheet for 1 year plus. Just look at that. It will tell you if you're on the list. So that's a really nice quick fix to help you boost your DMARC.
And that's historical data, not hysterical data. Although, arguably, if you're sitting there on P equals quarantine for 2 or 3 years, that is a bit kind of... Anyway, let's move on.
So I wanted to bring up something which I've kind of heard about but don't remember much about. There was something that happened to Bart's Healthcare, Bart's NHS Trust.
Ooh,
What was that all about?
I think it was nefariously or oddly or strangely reported as an attack on the NHS in London. And that seemed to be what was in the press. And that was about a month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks ago.
Right.
I'll need to go and look it up on my list, on one of my many lists of things. I have lists of lists these days. But as I recall, there's been a little bit of stuff in the press on this. And it's, rather than, inverted commas, NHS London, it was in fact Bart's Health. Or Bart's NHS Trust, and it was our friends Klopp, who we think are sort of state-sponsored, and they have been exploiting, I think, for the last 6 months, this Oracle e-business suite vulnerability that they've been exploiting. So I think they hit Bart's with that. I think, where are we? We're in early December. I think first week of December, if you look on news sources, no particular favourite, but certainly Bleeping Computer would have it. I think they're sort of talking about the theft of personal data on invoices who paid for treatment, as well as data on former employees. And this, as usual with Klopp, is pretty much all published on their dark website. So, or their, that's where they didn't obviously get any ransomware payments, so they're seeking to embarrass the organisation. So I think that was broadly on Bart's, and it wasn't, inverted commas, NHS London. It was, I think, Bart's, and it was, sadly, that well-known attack vector of Oracle e-business.
And if I remember rightly, Bart's is an overarching trust, so there are, other trusts underneath Bart's. I mean, it's like an umbrella, so would it have affected the ones underneath? I mean, I think Wheels Cross, for example, might be part of the Bart's group.
A, I wouldn't know. B, I hope not.
Yeah.
And C, I suppose it depends whether those sub-organisations were using that same Oracle e-business suite. I don't think Klopp, if you approach it from the ransomware gang's perspective, they're just going to grab the data. I don't think they're going to care whose data it is, other than they've got your data.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do with it. And, we're back to all of this kind of, I think we mentioned at the top of the podcast with, Jaguar Land Rover. It's all of those impacts. It is all of those people. It is, it is all that mining of that data by other organisations to put together smarter attacks because they've got, more information. They've got bank account data. And don't think they aren't doing it. The ransomware gangs are doing exactly what any organisation would do. They're building data lakes and mining that data and using AI tools to put things together. A hospital, unfortunately, or a hospital group becomes quite an interesting source of data for a range of reasons.
Yeah.
So that was Bart's, I think.
Something else that I remember you mentioning a few times just lately is the whole ClickFix thing.
Okay.
What can you tell us about that?
I think it's an evolving threat, and I think what we could do is when you publish the details of this podcast, if we include maybe a screenshot of a website where you can go and test what this does. So ClickFix is an evolving attack, and it is, I suppose, a social engineering technique, and the attackers trick people on loading something into their clipboard, and they do this by disguising access to a website that you want to go to as a capture check. So you might be browsing about on the internet looking for Christmas bargains, or maybe buying Easter eggs early, or whatever it is you're up to at this time of the year. And you click on something and it says, click here to go to this website. So you do. And you get those little captures that pop up that say, click here to prove you're human, which I find rather ironic in some respects. It's a robot asking me if I'm a human. Anyway, you click, but what that click does is it pushes something into your clipboard on your computer. Doesn't matter whether it's Windows or Mac or Linux, but it pushes something into your clipboard, or even Chromebooks. And from there, of course, there's the potential for it to do something way more dangerous on that specific host computer once it's loaded into the clipboard. Now, I think what we can do on this, Matt, is share a link where you can go off and test this. There's a fabulous individual based at an American university called Carson. Carson's set up a test site. We take some of Carson's data into Tarragon, and if you're doing nothing else, you might want to take this Tarragon list, and you could seek to block people going to some of those sites. I think it's about 1,000, just over 1,000 of these sites now that Carson's found, and it's another. It's a brand new kind of setup on Tarragon that will offer some prevention against going to those sites. And if I can just shout out to Jamie, you know who you are. Jamie spotted this, and I've had a conversation with Tarragon with Carson about Tarragon's use of his data, and he's super happy as well because it's part of an academic project he's working on. So that is just one bit of new stuff that Tarragon will be pushing out for 2026, but I thought this was so urgent I would get this up and running now.
So we'll put that link in the comments. In the description, the video description.
So the link is perfectly safe to use.
Yeah. It sounds like it's the sort of thing that can be leveraged at this time of year for unsuspecting people doing shopping for Christmas and. It sounds like the sort of thing you really want to make your staff aware of.
It is. I mean, and if you want to copy or download the screenshot that we'll publish, by all means do that and put it in your comms, because it is exactly that. People get used to, it's just one of these sites that wants me to prove I'm a human, click here.
Yeah.
At that point, you will see the pop-up and what it's done to your computer. It has pushed something basically into your... it's perfectly benign. Trust me, it's perfectly fine. Carson's a good guy. I think you sent him a link of this podcast. I think he'd love his name checks. But here you go, Carson. We're name checking you for Christmas. You can show your parents or nearest and dearest. But it's perfectly benign, and I think that will demonstrate just how simple it is and just how important it might be to tell staff about it. It's a growing threat, I think, and it is only going to get worse because it's so easy to set up. Yeah. I think that's. yeah, that's a good Christmas warning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've had quite a good discussion on 2025. Probably time to start wrapping up. It's nice to see you've got your mic on this time.
Oh, are you talking about my regular mic faux pas? So sometimes Matt and I record two sessions of the podcast, and the second time around, I think Matt left the blooper reel on because we might sort of change a shirt or something. I tend to leave my mic on the other shirt, which makes me a bit muffled. But
I just thought it was funny. It's a great outtake. But what other silly stuff have you done this year?
What are you implying? Look, there are a number of career highlights. Look, as this is the Christmas show, I'll just whip through a few then. There was a time at a major London venue I nearly fell off the stage. That was quite good.
I would have paid good money to see that.
The audience had probably at least paid their train fare to get there and could have done without my expletives.
Yeah.
Basically,
you were mic'd up, were you?
Yeah, I was mic'd up, yeah. So at the back of the stage, there was a metre gap between where the presentation was being shown. And I walked, and it's very dark on the stage, and I walked back, and I've just seen this metre gap. There's about a metre and a half drop. And as I've spotted it, I've just instinctively come out with a very bit of, industrial Anglo-Saxon. So that was one. I think there was the MTA STS presentation. Apologies if you were on it. I forgot to share my screen. And you guys are just so polite. You could have told me earlier. I'm saying, have a look at this, and here's that. And yes, just speak up.
How long did that go on for?
I think it was 2/3. Matt, you were on the call as well.
I don't remember it. I can't remember it. That's the trouble. People are too polite, aren't they?
Yeah. Look, if it happens again, let me know. There's been other things. Have any of you folks ever had an IT health check where one of your lead technicians decide the same day to roll out some MFD, some multifunction device software? There we were, the pen testers set up, they're scanning the network, and the IT team were busy rolling out software that had about 20 vulnerabilities, in which half were critical. Thanks, guys. That was a few years back. And I think I'll end on a little bit of a story, which was myself and a well-known pen tester who may have an article or two in the newspapers about taking over yachts in Monaco Harbour, if you want to go and look at it. Well, we decided to have a look at, was there access to the corporate network if you try and attack the library's network? So we set up opposite the main library in a coffee shop. I was busy running a massive DDoS attack, using my powers for good. And he was trying to see what he could push over. Anyway, I happened to have my council ID badge on, and there is a well-known individual locally who probably could best be described as having a mental illness, and is well known for her sort of Tourette's outbursts. She wandered over whilst I was midway through my coffee, DDoSing the library, sitting next to the pen tester with my cake, and started shouting about why we had spent the night together, why I had just left in the morning without saying goodbye, and I owed her money, and I hadn't paid up, etc., etc. And this went on for about 15-20 minutes. And then they wandered off, and the pen tester looked at me and said, I've never seen anyone working for a council being abused as you have. I'm happy to be a witness, but would you like some more cake or a coffee?
I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, and it was just, we were just sitting there, it was just kind of one of those things. So, yeah, these things happen in the public sector. they probably happen in other sectors. But
Yeah.
there are a few fun items for
And
the
the
new
thing
year.
is, the listeners will be wondering what silly stuff I've ever done. But the thing is,
Matt, come on.
I'm not in the public eye nearly as much as you are, so I don't get the opportunity to do silly stuff.
Oh, so are
I'm
you
sure that'll
suggesting?
change.
Yeah. I think there's a correlation here. I mean, you were on stage this year and got through that okay.
I
At
did.
the Northwest Walk, the Northern Walks.
I managed to get through it. I didn't do anything silly, I don't think. But
There's always opportunity.
yeah.
Oh, there was the sticky stage in Liverpool as well. Just briefly on this one, they had a band there the previous night on the stage, and they left all the gaffer tape. Well, they pulled the gaffer tape off, but all the glue was on the carpet. So as I was walking around there was this. Absolute crazy stuff. And I nearly fell off that stage as well. That was all black and dark. Light your stages properly, guys. Anyway, I think I'll just sit down this year.
Yeah, it's probably fairly safe. Well, shall we wrap up? I think definitely worth just reiterating what Bruce said at the beginning. Like and subscribe. We do value your attention and your
feedback.
support. Feedback is also good. What do you want to hear about in the new year? As I say, we're going to try and do some interviews. And if you want to hear from anybody, get in touch and let us know.
We'll see if we can persuade them.
We'll try and make it happen.
And we have got a short list, and you might be on it. So unless we get some suggestions, then we're going to head down that short list.
Yeah, but this is true. Have a great Christmas and a incident-free one, hopefully, and we'll see you in the new year.
Hang on a minute.